As I sifted through the credit card statement, a wave of disbelief washed over me. $3,200, I muttered, my eyes widening in shock. This wasn't just a minor oversight. This was a colossal, deliberate misuse of my hard-earned money. My name is Alara, a 32-year-old freelancer who up until this moment thought she had a loving and supportive husband, Adrian. Our story wasn't one of those whirlwind romances you read about in novels. We met in college, a time when I was buried in books, aiming for a slew of certifications. Adrian, ever the charmer, had a persistence that eventually won me over. After graduation, while I dove into the world of freelancing, Adrian secured a job at a local firm. Our life, albeit unconventional, was comfortable. He handled the housework, I paid the bills. A simple, yet effective arrangement. But today, that sense of normalcy shattered like fragile glass under a hammer. As I scanned the statement, line after line revealed purchases from high-end women's stores, transactions that were not mine. The only logical, yet heart-wrenching conclusion was that Adrian was having an affair, using my credit card to fund his deceit. I remembered how Adrian's face lit up every time he mentioned his so-called business trips. The realization hit me hard. Those trips aligned suspiciously with the dates on the statement. The fragments of my trust crumbled away as I pieced together the timeline of his betrayal. Dinner that night was a quiet affair. Adrian chatted about his day, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing inside me. My mind replayed every lie, every fake smile he had offered me these past months. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the weight of Adrian's betrayal anchoring my heart in a sea of turmoil. The man I had trusted, the partner I had supported, had been leading a double life at my expense. Anger, a fierce and burning entity, began to replace the hurt. I wasn't gonna let this slide. Adrian had made a grave mistake, and I was going to ensure he paid for it. The next morning, I watched Adrian leave for work, his usual kiss on the cheek feeling like a sting. I waited until the sound of his car faded into the distance before I picked up my phone. It was time to set my plan into motion. I started with a call to a well-reputed lawyer, known for handling cases of marital infidelity with ruthless efficiency. Next, I reached out to a few contacts, gathering evidence and building my case against Adrian. Each step I took was fueled by a mix of rage and an unyielding resolve for retribution. That evening, as Adrian returned home, his usual cheerful greeting felt like a slap across my face. I responded with a forced smile, concealing the whirlwind of emotions churning inside me. Little did he know, the foundations of his deceitful actions were about to crumble. The sun rose on a new day, but the pain and betrayal within me remained unshaken. I, Alara, once a trusting and devoted wife, now saw my world through a lens of deceit. The realization of Adrian's affair was a bitter pill to swallow, but it fueled my determination to expose his duplicity. While Adrian left for work, feigning normalcy, I pored over our past with a critical eye. Our college days, once sweet memories, now seemed tainted. He had always been a smooth talker, but I had believed his words were meant only for me. How naive I had been. In the quiet of our home, now a symbol of our fractured life, I began planning. I recalled Adrian's recent behaviors, the late nights, the unexpected gifts he claimed were rewards for his hard work, and the sudden business trips. It all made a mocking sort of sense now. I took a deep breath and dialed my best friend, Maya. As I recounted my discovery and my plan for revenge, Maya's shock quickly turned into fierce support. "Make him pay, Alara," she urged. "He doesn't deserve a penny of your hard work." The rest of the day was a blur of activity. I gathered financial statements, receipts, and any evidence of Adrian's extramarital expenses. I meticulously documented every transaction, building a case as solid as steel. That evening, as Adrian returned, I studied him, noting the ease with which he lied. "How was your day, love?" he asked, with a smile that once melted my heart. "Usual," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside. "Just busy with work." We sat through dinner, a meal that tasted like ash in my mouth. Adrian chattered about his day, unaware of the legal storm brewing against him. With every laugh and endearment, my resolve strengthened. I was not just going to divorce Adrian. I was going to strip him of the luxury he had indulged in at my expense. As I lay in bed that night, I couldn't help but think about the woman who had ensnared Adrian. Did she know about me? Did she care? The thought left a bitter taste, but I pushed it aside. This was not just about revenge. It was about justice. I drifted off to sleep with a plan forming in my mind. I would confront Adrian, but not yet. I would wait, gather more evidence, and strike when he least expected it. He would learn the hard way that betrayal comes with a hefty price tag. Days turned into weeks, each passing moment a silent testament to the dual life I now led. To Adrian, I was the same Alara, absorbed in my freelance work, oblivious to his deceit. But beneath this calm exterior, my plans for revenge were taking shape, each detail meticulously crafted for maximum impact. Adrian's announcement of another business trip abroad, supposedly for a new client, came as no surprise. I masked my suspicion with feigned interest. "That sounds like a big opportunity, Adrian. I'm proud of you," I said, my voice laced with sarcasm. With a bitterness he failed to detect, "Thanks, Alara," he replied, a smug smile playing on his lips. "I knew you'd understand. You're always so supportive." The irony of his words stung. Supportive? If only he knew the storm that was brewing. But I held my tongue, knowing that patience was crucial for my plan to work. Each day as Adrian left for work, I continued my secret preparations. Consulting with my lawyer, securing my finances, and gathering evidence of Adrian's infidelity became my new routine. The more I uncovered, the clearer the picture became. Expensive hotels, lavish gifts, and intimate dinners, all funded by my hard-earned money. One evening, as we sat in our living room, Adrian draped his arm around me. "We should plan a vacation, just the two of us, after this project wraps up," he suggested, his voice dripping with false affection. I forced a smile, the hypocrisy of his words fueling my anger. "That sounds lovely," I replied, my tone light belying the cold resolve within me. As the day of Adrian's departure approached, I felt a mix of relief and anticipation. Relief at the thought of not having to play the loving wife for a few days, and anticipation for what was to come. On the morning of his flight, Adrian was in a particularly jovial mood. "I'll miss you," he said, kissing me goodbye. "I'll miss you too," I lied, watching him leave with a suitcase filled with lies and betrayal. Once he was gone, I sprung into action. The first step was to secure my assets. I transferred my savings into a new account, one that Adrian had no access to. I then met with my lawyer to finalize the strategy for the divorce and the lawsuit for the recovery of my funds. I spent the rest of the day in a flurry of activity, each step a move closer to my ultimate goal, to see Adrian face the consequences of his actions. The day Adrian left for his so-called business trip marked the beginning of my retribution. The house, once a symbol of our shared life, now felt like a stage where the final act of our marriage was about to unfold. I spent the morning in silence, reflecting on the years wasted on a man who had so callously betrayed me. But there was no room for self-pity. This was a time for action. I started by making calls to cancel our joint credit cards, ensuring Adrian would have no access to my funds. Each call felt like a strike against the facade of our marriage. Next, I contacted a real estate agent to put our house on the market. It was a painful decision, but necessary. This house, filled with deceit, could no longer be my home. Later that day, I met with my lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Miss Bennett. "Everything is set, Alara," she assured me. "Once he's back, we can serve him the divorce papers and the lawsuit for the financial recovery." "Thank you, Miss Bennett," I replied, my voice steady. "I want to make sure he pays for what he's done, not just emotionally, but financially too." The following days were a blur. I moved my belongings to a storage unit and stayed with Maya. She was a rock, providing support and encouragement. "You're doing the right thing," she said one evening. "Adrian deserves to face the consequences of his actions." The night before Adrian's return, I lay awake, going over the plan in my head. It was simple: confront him, expose his betrayal, and then watch as his world came crashing down around him. When the day arrived, I felt a mixture of nerves and resolve. I returned to our house one last time, waiting for Adrian to walk through the door. He entered, unsuspecting, a smile on his face that vanished the moment he saw me sitting in the living room, my expression grim. "Alara? What's going on? Why are you here with your bags packed?" he asked, confusion etched on his face. "Sit down, Adrian. We need to talk," I said, my voice calm but cold. As he sat, I could see the realization slowly dawning on him. Is this about the credit cards? I couldn't use them during the trip. What did you do? Oh, I did what any sensible person would do when they discover their spouse's infidelity, I replied, my words sharp as knives. I protected my assets. And that's just the beginning. Adrian's face went pale. Infidelity? Alara, I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered, but the guilt in his eyes betrayed him. Don't insult my intelligence, Adrian, I said, standing up. I know about the affair, the trips, the gifts. It's over. I'm divorcing you, and I'm gonna make sure you pay back every penny you spent on your mistress. Adrian tried to speak, but I raised my hand to stop him. Save your excuses. I've heard enough lies. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. With that, I walked out of the house, leaving Adrian in stunned silence. The final chapter of our marriage had just been written, and it was one of betrayal and retribution. The days following my confrontation with Adrian were a whirlwind. I stayed with Maya, who provided not just a couch to crash on, but also the emotional support I desperately needed. Each morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. Adrian's betrayal had ignited a fire within me, a fire that was now propelling me towards justice. Adrian, on the other hand, was scrambling. He called repeatedly, leaving voicemails ranging from apologies to angry outbursts. Each message he left was a testament to his desperation. Alara, please, we can talk about this. I can explain everything, one message began. Another was more accusatory. How could you do this to me? Cancel the cards? Put our house on the market? You're overreacting. But I didn't waver. Instead, I met with Miss Bennett to discuss the next steps. He's been served the papers, she informed me. And he's not taking it well. Expect some pushback. I nodded, prepared for whatever Adrian would throw my way. Let him push back. I have all the evidence we need. He won't get away with this. A few days later, I received a call from Adrian. I answered, bracing myself for the conversation. Alara, this is insane. You're ruining my life over a mistake. Adrian's voice was a mix of anger and desperation. A mistake, Adrian? Is that what you call a year-long affair? I retorted, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. It wasn't like that. You don't understand the pressure I was under, he tried to explain, but his words fell on deaf ears. Pressure? To cheat, lie, and steal from me? You've made your bed, Adrian. Now lie in it. He paused, and for a moment there was silence on the line. Then in a softer tone he said, I loved you, Alara. I still do. His words could have broken me once, but not anymore. Your love is worth nothing, I said, my voice void of emotion. Goodbye, Adrian. I hung up, a sense of finality washing over me. It was over. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to feel for the man I once loved. The following weeks were filled with legal meetings and financial negotiations. Adrian's attempts to reach a settlement were met with my unwavering demand for full financial restitution. I was not going to let him off easy. As I sat in Miss Bennett's office signing the final papers, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was done. Adrian would pay for his betrayal, and I could finally start to rebuild my life. In the wake of my divorce from Adrian, the world seemed different, as if I was seeing it through new, unclouded eyes. The finalization of our divorce was not just the end of our marriage, but also the beginning of my newfound freedom. I had emerged from the wreckage of betrayal, stronger and more determined. Adrian's life, on the other hand, unraveled rapidly. The news of his affair and the subsequent lawsuit became the talk of our social circles. Friends and acquaintances, once mutual, now looked at him with disdain. His mistress, no longer a secret, had moved on, leaving Adrian to face the consequences alone. The financial repercussions of his actions hit him hard. The court ruled in my favor, ordering Adrian to repay every penny he had squandered on his affair. Watching him grapple with the financial ruin he had brought upon himself was a cold comfort. It was a vindication, tangible proof that justice, though sometimes slow, was inexorable. I heard, through the grapevine, about his struggles. His once prestigious position at work was now tarnished, his reputation in shambles. There was a certain poetic justice in seeing the man who had once held himself so high brought down by his own arrogance and deceit. As for me, I dove into my work with renewed vigor. Freelancing had always been my passion, and now it became my sanctuary. A place where I could rebuild myself. I took on new projects, pushing my limits and expanding my portfolio. The success that followed was my own untainted by Adrian's shadow. Maya was a constant presence, her friendship a steady force in turbulent times. "You did it, Alara," she said to me one evening over coffee. "You stood up for yourself and you came out on top." Her words rang true. I had stood up for myself against betrayal and deceit. It was a battle that had taken its toll, but one that I had ultimately won. But victory did not mean the absence of pain. There were nights when loneliness crept in, moments when memories of what I thought we had made me question everything. Yet these moments of weakness were fleeting. I had learned my worth and I refused to be defined by Adrian's betrayal. The months following my divorce from Adrian were a period of profound transformation. I had weathered the storm of betrayal and emerged not just unscathed but stronger. The pain that had once threatened to consume me had now become a distant memory, a mere footnote in the narrative of my life. I found solace in my work, my passion for freelancing burning brighter than ever before. Each project I completed was a testament to my resilience, a declaration of my independence. I had proven to myself that I could thrive on my own, that my happiness and success were not tethered to anyone else. Adrian's downfall continued to be a topic of discussion among our former acquaintances. His once enviable life had crumbled under the weight of his own actions. He had attempted to reach out to me a few times, messages laden with regret and pleas for forgiveness. But I no longer felt anger or hurt. Instead, I felt nothing but indifference. Adrian was a part of my past, a chapter that I had firmly closed. My new apartment became a sanctuary, a space that reflected my personal journey. Here, I was free from the shadows of deceit, free to build a life on my own terms. The walls, once bare, were now adorned with artwork that spoke of hope and renewal. One evening, as I sat on my balcony sipping tea and overlooking the city lights, I realized how far I had come. The betrayal that had once seemed like an insurmountable obstacle was now the catalyst for my growth. I had turned my pain into power, my heartache into triumph. Maya, ever the supportive friend, joined me that night. To new beginnings, she toasted, raising her glass. We talked late into the night, our conversation a mixture of laughter and reflective thoughts. Maya's presence was a reminder of the unwavering support that had helped me through my darkest days. As I lay in bed that night, I thought about the future. It was a blank canvas, waiting for me to paint my dreams and aspirations. There was no fear, no hesitation, just a deep-seated confidence in my ability to face whatever lay ahead.